The Battle of Dysert O'Dea took place on the 10th of May 1318 at Dysert O'Dea near Corofin in Ireland. The Bruce invasion of Ireland enabled the outbreak of a number of small wars that had little, if anything, to do with the Bruce invasion. Some of the families just used the political upheaval to their advantage, either to gain more power within their own political sphere or to settle old debts from enemies whose allies were now focused on the bigger threat. These family feuds would also cause families to swap sides multiple times depending on the situation. Perhaps the most notable conflict was the Battle of Dysert O'Dea, which erupted in the Kingdom of Thomand. Like other Irish kings, the O'Brien's official status was that of tenants at will, paying an annual rent for the lands remaining under their control, owing military service and obedience to the royal directives. However, this was useless to the government unless it could be enforced. The most effective check on the Irish kings was exercised not by Edward II's council in Dublin, but by the great Anglo-Norman lords. Such men took hostages from the neighbouring Irish, mounted plundering raids, and enacted fines at the first sign of rebellion. They even appointed and deposed chieftains depending on their own policies. The O'Brien feud was no different, the De Burghs, Butlers and the Clares all having stakes in this conflict. Two factions of the O'Brien's clan have been fighting for supremacy in Thomand. Murtagh O'Brien, the descendant of Turlough O'Brien, was the king of Thomand. A challenger appeared in the form of Mahon O'Brien, allied with the opposing faction of the family. This side of the family was allied with the powerful Anglo-Norman Richard de Clare, with Murtagh's faction being supported by the De Burgh family. Richard de Clare's alliance with Mahon O'Brien provided an excellent chance for him to gain authority over his titular rule of the area. The De Clares had often allied themselves with rival O'Brien factions as a way of gaining influence in the area. The O'Briens had used the relationship to their advantage, such as gaining access to Norman troops. Murtagh's younger brother Dermot O'Brien gathered their followers together and effectively ended the long feud by massacring his brother's rivals in the Battle of Lochraska. After clearing the rest of the De Clare supporters, Murtagh tried to negotiate with De Clare, with Murtagh appealing to the Butlers and De Burghs to put pressure on Richard. But when peaceful means failed, the Irish gradually determined to reject De Clare's authority outright. Both sides assembled their forces, with Murtagh calling on his allies, kinsmen and vassals to be ready for war, also recruiting mercenaries he had used in previous campaigns. De Clare also sent word calling on his knights and allies to assemble their levies. He sent messages out requesting any knights in Ireland who may be looking for wealth and glory. Some may have come from his cousin's previous land in and around County Kilkenny. De Clare decided to attack the Gaelic stronghold at Dysert O'Dea. His troops arrived at Rouen on the morning of 10th of May 1318 and were divided into three columns. A tactic used by the Irish and now adopted by the Normans, as the Irish countryside consisted of deep woods, great areas of bog, much rough ground, many mountains. The roads, tracks and paths thus remained few, narrow and difficult. Progress away from these roads was not ordinarily attempted by marching armies. One body, commanded by De Clare's son, moved to the right towards Tully to cut off any support troops. Another to the left towards Magona. Richard de Clare himself advanced in the centre with the main force towards Dysert. The clan chief, Conor O'Dea, was at a disadvantage, for he had a smaller force. He decided to ambush the larger Norman army. De Clare's advance came on a party of O'Dea's men. One account describes it as a well-ordered detachment of horse and foot, driving a herd of cattle across a stream. de Clare charged with his men. At first, the Irish seemed full of fight. They faced around and began skirmishing, assailing the Anglo-Normans with the usual shower of darts and slingstones. Soon, however, they began to retire, as de Clare's men were upon them faster than they had anticipated. O'Dea's men fell back while hurrying off their cattle behind them, till both parties reached a place where the stream was fordable. After crossing the ford, the Irish made a more stubborn stand. Then, the main force rose up from the place of ambush and charged into the fray, one part going to kill de Clare and his retinue, who had crossed the river with him, and the others to block the ford and prevent the rest of de Clare's army coming to the rescue. Conor O'Dea encountered de Clare himself, and with his battle axe felled the knight. O'Dea's clansmen then hacked to pieces de Clare's body, while the knight's main force looked helplessly on from the opposite bank of the stream. Enraged, the Anglo-Normans fought their way across the stream and surrounded the O'Deas. The clan knew they had to hold the line. Messages had been sent to allies nearby, and they knew reinforcements would arrive soon. The Norman army also had the same thought. They knew that it was only a matter of time till their reinforcements arrived. Both sides held the line, hoping it would be sooner rather than later. Suddenly, Phelim O'Connor and Lachlan O'Hare's clansmen charged down the hill of Scam Hall, west of Dysert. They cut a path through the Anglo-Normans and joined O'Dea and his men in the fray. Young Thomas de Clare and his troops arrived next to the site, and he and Phelim O'Connor sought each other out on the battlefield. O'Connor was the victor. Both de Clare and his son lay dead on the battlefield. The Anglo-Normans now redoubled their efforts to overrun them. The struggle was severe, the casualties heavy. O'Dea and his allies were outnumbered, and their ranks were thinned. The Gaelic forces were now surrounded and forced to make a last stand on the ridge of a hill, refusing to run or surrender, until Murtagh O'Brien unexpectedly arrived at the battle. It is said that Murtagh was following earlier reports that de Clare's army had been seen in the area, and he had decided to try and find him. It was only as he drew near the ongoing battle, coming across stragglers from the field, that he was made aware that a battle was underway. Reports state that his men dropped anything that may have slowed them down, so they could run and relieve their allies as quickly as possible. They crashed into the enemy lines. It is said many of de Clare's army decided to fight and die where they stood. Those that did flee were chased mercilessly by the Gaelic forces. With the death of the de Clare dynasty, Thomand wouldn't see a serious external threat to its lands for 2 centuries. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you wish to see more Irish and Scottish clan history. And also subscribe to Irish Medieval History, where I do a weekly podcast. I'll leave a link in the description. Thank you.